Hello and welcome to Life of an NPC. My name is Liam Byatt, and this is going to be my own podcast, which is very exciting. I have actually never tried to do a podcast before, so I am pretty inexperienced when it comes to this style of creativity. I am, however, a content SEO writer, but I've never dabbled in any podcasting. The only recent stuff I have related to podcasts is through listening to Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO, which has been very inspirational for me. So, Stephen, if you are listening, I would be really happy to have you as a guest or at any point, or me as a guest on your show. So, the title: Why Life of an NPC? Online recently, there's been a particular trend towards NPCs, which is often referred to as a non-playable character, particularly in video games. So, say for example, you are playing Grand Theft Auto (GTA), and any character that you are not playing in the game is classified as an NPC. It could be someone walking down the street and you could just run them over, anything like that. So apply that to real life. We could all be considered NPCs. We are our own main character. But in a sense, that is a confliction because no one can be an NPC. We may see other people acting completely different to what we do, but that does not mean that we are an NPC. So in essence, I want this to be sort of a joke, and I want people to understand that we are all different. And although we could consider ourselves NPCs, we are in essence not. So to briefly introduce myself, I am 24 years old and I live in the centre of the UK. You could probably tell from my rough accent where I'm from. It's somewhere between Manchester and Birmingham. I'm not going to mention specifically in case anyone that's listening to this podcast is going to try and kill me. As I mentioned, am a content SEO writer. I studied at Keele University for 5 years. I have two English degrees, one which is a bachelor's in English with creative writing and a master's in creative writing. Now, during this time, there was a rather turbulent period because when I was in years 2 and 3 of university, there was a global pandemic, and let's just say we all suffered from that in different ways. And whilst we're all isolated, I got to think about my own life quite a bit and whereabouts I wanted to go. 1 or 2 years later, I got this job that involved content SEO writing. So I thought I could apply my 2 degrees to this job. But I did not realize, because I was inexperienced from education, not giving me the experience I needed, just purely a piece of paper that said that I turned up to an institute for 4 or 5 times a week. Yeah, I did not have the experience, so now I have to do an apprenticeship and get paid less than a proper full-time job would. As an adult, where you could be earning 12, £13 an hour, and I'm getting £6 an hour. Fortunately, that's only short term, so soon I should be on a better wage. But until then, I yes, I would like to do this podcast. I want this to be a long-term project. I am quite passionate about where I want to go with this because for those that don't know me personally, I have got autism, which is a key topic I do want to discuss on the show. I want this show to be not just about me, but about other people that may have certain conditions or disabilities, such as autism, and how I want the aim of this show to be for young people or any age groups where your life has not turned out the way you're expecting it to when you're growing up. Like, for example, when I was, say, 14 to 16, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and yet here I am, half a dozen years later, with 2 degrees and in an occupation which I am quite passionate about. So that is what the main purpose of the show is. I want to inspire young people that their life is not set, how there are more opportunities in the world than you may think. Because we often go down a certain path that could be the same path that our parents went down. Say, if your mum or dad was a teacher, a doctor, or a mechanic, you may too go down that same job because you do not see another path, and it's sort of like your own sort of inheritance. But because the world is so diverse these days, there are so many different paths you could take. like as I said, I went from swimming teaching. I did swimming teaching for about 5 or 6 months, and before that, I was a lifeguard. Like I say, there are so many different opportunities in the world, and we are only on this planet for so long. So, and it's a matter of making the most of that time. I have always found myself to be quite a creative. When I was in primary school, I used to draw cartoons. And from there, when I was in sixth form, I started writing my own stories. The most famous one amongst my friends is War of the Moles, which, even though it hasn't been published yet, does need to be rewritten, and I am really passionate about that. As strange as that does sound. So with the show, it's not just going to be me talking into this void. My camera is currently off. This is audio only. I do want to get guests on the show. Now, at first, these will primarily be guests that I am aware of, but my audience may not be aware of. That can change over time, and even though you may not know that person, you can still learn a variety of things from them because we all have different lives, we all experience things very differently. And that's the exciting thing about living. We all have these different experiences, and no one can take that away from you, which is at the very premise of life of an NPC. I've never done the podcast before. I've done a little bit of research as to how to go about it, but ultimately I will learn from how I adopt doing the podcast this way, how it may go from my own expertise. Now, why? The question of why boils down to any decision in life. It can boil down to, business or education. Everything has its reason why. Now, you may be thinking, why do I want to do a podcast? Every man and his dog can do a podcast. It's one of the cheapest and easiest. Well, I don't know if it's easy. We'll see about that. It's one of perhaps the most revolutionary pieces of media available today. Ever since the invention of the radio, you could say that podcasts have been existent, and it's not going away anytime soon. All you need is a piece of audio equipment and a voice. And I have a voice. I want the people that are listening to hear it and can feel free to have conversations about it in any way deemed fit. But also, I am going to be starting a YouTube channel for this podcast as well as a TikTok. TikTok has exploded in recent years, and it would be increasingly stupid of me to not include this podcast on there as well. Another thing I wanted to mention is when I was in high school, the motto was aspire to be more. And that is what I am doing now. I am aspiring to be more. I don't want to be stuck doing a 9 to 5 job in an office, just doing that day in and day out. I am passionate about it, but I want to do more. I want to embrace my creativity and bring that to this show. Now, I don't know if my viewers have heard different shows to this or not, but I want to bring a lot of new things to this. Because I'm quite passionate about media, and you maybe not do not even get many people in this industry that have autism, and I want to bring that to the table. It's not a severe level of autism, admittedly, but I want to inspire people, inspire and aspire with life of an NPC. Now, let's begin.